Sai Ram, Vandanam, Namaskar, Assalamu Alaikum, and Sat Sri Akal. We meet again for another session on reflections. And today we are looking at the word called grace. Grace. You see, the word grace in English has a lot of usages and can have different meanings when used in different contexts. And the restriction of its use is dictated by the context in which that very word is used. For example, before eating, the father says grace. That is completely different from when you say, oh, those two, they're such a pair, they dance with such grace. This grace is different from the earlier one. Or of course, when, someone is exhorted to show a little more grace when they're under pressure, that grace is completely different. So you see, but we are looking at it from a spiritual perspective. What does grace mean? So it's a good start, perhaps for me to say, in Christianity, right? It simply means spontaneous and unmerited gift of the divine in favor in the salvation of man. Or, what Christianity refers to as sinners, the divine influence operating in man for his regeneration and sanctification. Whereas in Islam, the grace of God or Allah refers to, what the Creator does for his creation. The two divine attributes that Muslims always couple to the divine name are Al-Rahman and Al-Rahim, which technically translated means grace, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the most graceful. These are words that come from the Arabic root word called Raham, right? Raham means womb, womb. Like we say Garbha. Even the Garbha, Raha is still there, right? Anyway, in Hinduism, grace means Anugraha. And then, of course, somebody says Daya, Kripa, in a broader context, I suppose you can take it to mean as grace. And of course, Swami has said, and perhaps you have heard me say in many of my satsangs, when you have the Anugraha of God, the grace of God, you don't have to worry about any other thing in life, right? So the big question, I suppose, that many people will have is, okay, that's fine, but how do we earn the grace of God? How do we earn this grace of God? That's the problem, isn't it? So the answer to that is surrender, or Purna Sharanagati, complete surrender, right? In Sikhism, if you take, for example, Guru Nanak says that the jiva, right, cannot achieve the highest state of bliss unless he comes under the fold of God's grace. Without this kripa, or grace, or daya of God or Guru, one is helpless. And of course, there are many references from Vivekananda, Ramana Maharishi, where they say, within every jiva, right, there is a Paramatma. And for that Paramatma to grant grace to that jiva, nothing can come in between as and when that grace is required or necessary. So God doesn't need any permission from anyone when he wants to give you grace. And that grace can come in the form of a blessing in disguise, So let me tell you a little story from the life of Adi Shankara. Shankara was once, he spent a lot of his time in Varanasi. So he was one day, taking a bath in the holy Ganges and was going to the Vishwanath temple, which he does on a daily basis, with his disciples, treading alongside. And, as he was going, he saw a Chandala, an outcast, coming in front of him with, 3 or 4 dogs. So he told the Chandala, move away, get away from my path. The Chandala stopped with his dogs and he said, what do you mean by move away or get away? Do you wish for me to move the matter from the matter? Do you mean to separate the spirit from the spirit? Because you, O Shankara, have established that the absolute or the Paramatman is present in everyone. So when you say move away, get away, do you want me to remove that Paramatman to that place where there is also a Paramatman, or to that place where there is also a Paramatman? Do you wish to separate pure awareness from pure awareness? If so, tell me how. Now, these innocent but striking remarks led to Shankara suddenly bursting out. Shankara, always when he's challenged, he bursts out with a shloka or a stotra, or, So he came out with something called Manisha Panchakam. Manisha Panchakam, right? Suddenly burst out. The 5 verses. And of course, the whole thing was orchestrated by Lord Shiva. The Chandala or the outcast was none other than Lord Shiva, in order to grace Shankara, so that Shankara, having realized that who is in front of him, don't look at the form, but look at the divine within that form. And Shankara burst forth with Manisha Panchakam. This is because mankind needed that grace, and that grace came through Shankara for all to benefit. So you see, one of the most striking sayings that I remember is, grace has the ability to change anything at any time, right? And another one that I've read, I can't remember where, but it comes to mind, it says, 1,000 times I have failed, still your mercy remains. But should I stumble again, I am sure I will be caught by your grace. Until I see you all next, stay blessed.